Latin from scratch, the most frequent irregular verbs. Of course, we are not going to study every irregularity in the verbal system. We are going to study the most frequent irregular verbs. And here we see, which are like pretty much 4 plus 2. Okay? So, eo, which is go, fero, bear, carry, feel, be made, become, happen, or wolo, won't. And then we see that wolo has 2 compounds itself. Now, we are going through all the verbs, and keep in mind that, not always, but I'm going to be underlining the most relevant irregularities. That's one thing. Then, on the other hand, take into account that the irregularities are in the present stem. Then the perfect stem is regular, is always regular, although the perfect stem and the supine stem might themselves be irregular. Okay, we are going to see. Let's start with eo, go. Its statement is eo, ire, iwi, or most commonly ii, and then itu. The present stem is e, only e, when followed by a vowel other than e. It is e when followed by a consonant or e. Okay, so quite simple. So here we have present indicative, imperfect indicative, future indicative, present subjunctive, imperfect subjunctive. So here we see this distribution, which we just mentioned, no? So eo, is, it, imus, itis, eunt. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to be explaining everything because, I mean, it's just this. There is no really nothing difficult here. Just, of course, learning by heart. Then, its present participle is iens euntis, and this verb can have many compounds. For example, ex eo, and then you see, which is ex eo, pretty much go out, literally, no? Go out, ex eo. And then, of course, ex eo, exitum, so exitum, exit in English, no? That's why the exit is the exit, no? The place to go out. All of which have the same irregularities. Okay, so that's the first irregular verb. Then, fero, bear, in the sense of bear something, no? Like carry. Its statement is fero, ferre, tuli, latum. Okay, so here we see that the perfect stem is irregular in the sense that it is just like a completely different stem, and also the supine stem. Okay, they are just like completely different. But then, other than that, the conjugation is regular. Okay, like there is nothing weird. Just like we take the stem and we conjugate in a normal way. Okay. Now the irregularities here, for example, we see one, this ferre instead of, for example, ferere, which we would have expected. No. Apart from the completely different roots in the perfect and the supine stem, the irregularity lies in the fact that some forms lack a vowel between the root and the ending. Okay, so here we have like quite a lot of things underlined. So, for example, here it is fero, fers. It's not feris. We would have expected feris, but no. Fers, fert, not ferit, and then fertis. Okay, then here ferris, fertur. Then the whole imperfect subjunctive, it is ferrem, ferres, ferret, ferremus, etc. Ferrer also in the passive, no? So that's it. Its active present infinitive is ferre, we saw in the statement, and the passive is fer. Then we have the verb feel, which means be made, become, happen. We see that all of these are like meanings which are like passive, intransitive. Okay, of course, the translation completely depends on the context. Then the statement is fio, fieri, factus sum. We see also that it is deponent. It is quite weird because, as I say here, the verb fio requires an attribute or predicative of the subject, depending on the analysis. Quite often, it is used as the passive voice of facio. Okay, so instead of using the passive voice of facio, the regular passive voice of facio, just we use the verb feel. And last, but definitely not least, the verb wolo, which is want. Its statement is wolo welle wolwi, no supine stem. Now, let's see, here, mostly in the present, we have wis, wult, wultis. Okay, so these are like three quite irregular forms, no? Of course, we just learned this by heart. And then in the imperfect subjunctive, we have the irregularity that we could expect from the infinitive, no? Like, of course, you also have to check that, for example, here it is wol, here it is well, here it is also well, and again, no, like this is the irregularity that we expect from the infinitive in the statement. Now, also, the verb wolo has two compounds, each of which has its own peculiarities. First, the verb nolo, which is not want, obviously, no, because it's pretty much a compound of non-wolo. The statement is nolo, nolle, nolui. Now, what happens here? The syllable wo or we has been lost except in the second and third persons singular and second plural in the present indicative. So we will most of the times have, for example, we would have wolo. So we would have nolo. Then, for example, volumus, we would have nolumus, etc. And then precisely the only forms which are like full in two words are non-wis, which is non-wis, non-wult, wult, non-wultis, wultis. The rest, it would be, for example, again, no, like wolebat, so it would be nolebat. Velimus, it would be nolimus, etc., etc. Like that all the time. And then we have the verb malo, which is prefer, because literally it is magis wolo, like literally want more. So when you want something more than other thing, is that you prefer that thing. No? So the statement malo, malle, malui, etc. It is a compound of magis wolo. The syllable wo or we has been lost without exception. So here, no exceptions. It is always like this, no? So it would be malebam, malebas, mallets, malimus, malletis, like that all the time. And now, how would it be here, 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 when we don't have the syllables wo or we? Because we said, okay, the wo or we syllables are lost and replaced by ma. Here we don't have wo or we. So what happens? We don't replace, we just add ma, ma, ma. So it would be mawis, mawult, mawultis. Okay, so that's it. That's pretty much everything that we need to know about irregular verbs. Now let's go and practice.